To save our blue planet, we need to elevate our understanding and our empathy for the living, breathing ocean. Here to tell us more about why the meeting of traditional Indigenous knowledge and modern science, as well as the granting of the rights of personhood to nature, could be crucial in protecting our oceans, are Glenn Edney, ocean ecologist and co-founder of Ocean Spirit in New Zealand, and Dr. Daniel Hikuroa, Earth System Scientist at the University of Auckland. Thank you both for joining me. I'm very excited about this conversation. Glenn, can I start with you by asking about your book, The Ocean is Alive? You talk in your book about the ocean being one living system and the role that she plays in planetary self-regulation. Could you tell me a bit more about the science that underpins this?
Yeah, sure. So, look, planetary self-regulation is now an accepted scientific norm. So, this self-regulation happens through the feedback, the tight interplay between life and environment. Now, this, of course, affects our climate, it affects our atmosphere, it affects all of the nutrient cycles that are essential for life. And most importantly, it is the backbone of the hydrological cycle, the water cycle. Now, of course, the ocean, as the major body of water on the planet, is really takes lead in all of those self-regulating cycles. And so through circulation, through metabolism, and through respiration, she supplies our oxygen, she looks after our carbon cycles, and of course, most importantly, as I mentioned, the water cycle.
So by understanding it in this way, this huge role the ocean plays in the interconnectedness of everything on the planet, how can that help us to better protect our oceans?
Right. So I think the important thing to understand about those things I just mentioned, these are living processes of a living planet and the ocean as a living being. Now, one of the things that we've got to realize is that it's not just life interacting with environment. This is kind of old thinking. And in fact, there is no separation. So there is actually no separation between the water and all of the biological organisms in that water. This idea, this 400-year-old idea of separation has been less than helpful. And in fact, it's just wrong. And so if we think about water, now water is absolutely fundamental to life. We know that. But look, 99% of the molecules in every single cell of your body and my body, every organism, 99% are water molecules. Now, we're part of that water cycle as well. So we're all water beings. The ocean just happens to be the largest of the water beings. And through the water cycle, we are continually sharing that water. You might just say that life is animated water.
I love that. I love that description. Dan, the granting of personhood, the rights of personhood to animals has been gaining a lot of traction of late. Do you think the same should apply to our ocean? And why is our ocean a she?
Yeah, so the ocean is a she for me and for Maori and for Polynesians because that's what the teachings tell us. And so the Pacific Ocean is the physical part is Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, Kiwa being the male form, but the personification of that ocean is Hene Moana. And so that's how we've been taught, that's how we conceptualize and understand the ocean. But why is she a she? Well, she provides for us. She nurtures us, she nourishes us, she embraces us, she listens to us when we're down, she embraces us in her fold. Of course she's a she, of course she's a mother. So now for the rights of animals. In New Zealand, of course, we've recently passed some laws which bring in these ancient Māori philosophies of connection with the land, and we've granted a river, a legal personality. And I'll try and read from the law. We talk about the Wanganui River, its catchment, the physical and the metaphysical as an indivisible whole. And so it's this Māori philosophy that's now expressed in this law which gives the river personality. So this concept draws from ancient ways of relating to and seeing yourself as part of the environment. We don't have that Cartesian split of nature and culture. And that thinking really came out in the Enlightenment, and it led to command and control and mechanistic views of the world. Well, that doesn't hold so strong in Indigenous thinking, in particular Maori thinking. And so this personification of a river, and its catchment, we've also done it for a forest park. And so why wouldn't we begin to think, well, if we can do that on land, it's perfectly natural to be doing that out into the ocean, out to our ancestor, Hine Moana.
And as a result, being able to better protect that river, mountains, the ocean, by giving them those rights.
Absolutely. I mean, you care much more for your grandmother or a revered kin than you would for something that's separate from you. And so this framing of being relational, that's core, it's fundamental to a Māori worldview. And the word we have for it is whakapapa. It's our connection with everything, and it explains how the world was made and explains our connection with it. And we make sense of the world by how we relate to it. So the order of things, which Michel Foucault, described for, this mechanistic view, is completely separate from a Māori and Indigenous view, which is the order of relations. It's more important how we relate to things than how different we are from them.
And it's going back to how we used to relate to our planet. So with that in mind, you've really been championing not only the giving of rights to the river, but also the marrying of traditional indigenous knowledge with modern science. Why is that such an important part of the conservation toolkit going forward? Will that be the thing that really allows us to protect the planet the way she deserves to be protected?
Well, I think so, and for a few reasons. One reason is Indigenous knowledge can draw from this database of observations of understanding the environment that go back in Aotearoa, New Zealand, hundreds of years. But for other Indigenous peoples, it goes back thousands, even tens of thousands of years. It's our responsibility to draw from that knowledge. It also is an opportunity to draw from that worldview that sees us connected with it. And I think many people sense this feeling of connection. Just Indigenous peoples still have it pretty core at their being, and I think we can rediscover it. Remember, we're all Indigenous to this planet. If we can just rediscover our connection, that's going to enable us these ways to do it. And many people have said, oh, well, how can you rely on that Indigenous knowledge, that myth and legend? Well, we can demonstrably prove that much Indigenous knowledge is generated according to the scientific method and can importantly be accurate and can be precise. And those are just the hallmarks and the things we need for any information we need for making decisions.
Absolutely. You make so much sense, the two of you. You really do. Glenn, conservation often speaks of the value of ecosystems in order to then incentivize their protection. For example, now the new talk of going to explore the deep and then finding medicines for human beings. That's why it's valuable. To protect it. You've spoken in the past about the fact that nature has its own intrinsic value beyond the benefits it can give to humans. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Why is it important to remember that?
Yes, well, the idea that something has value only if it's valuable to humanity, again, that comes from a place of separation. And I actually call it the separation delusion. And it's a delusion because it's simply not true. No matter how much we like to believe that we are separate entities, it's simply scientifically not the case. And, as mentioned before, we're all water. Everything is absolutely connected. So instead of basing our conservation efforts on what basically is a delusion, we actually need to go back to that relationship. Now, in deep ecology, we talk about the ecological self rather than the ego self. And the ecological self acknowledges and embraces the interconnectedness of everything. So your wider body is your immediate ecosystem, and then beyond your immediate ecosystem, the connecting ecosystems right out into the entire planet. Now, so from an ocean perspective, if you've got a favorite bay or a favorite beach or a favorite dive site, that is your immediate wider self, your immediate ecological self. But it's not a separate thing. It's connected to the entire ocean. So this idea of intrinsic value is something that needs to be core to our thinking. And we have territorial rights, we have EEZs, we have the open ocean, and we've been relying on treaties, top-down mechanisms to control these things. But of course, all of those are coming from this place of separation. So we need to actually go back into that fundamental relationship. Just what Dan was talking about. This is something that humanity has known since we've been on the planet.
You've both put it so succinctly. We are out of time, but if I could ask you to give just a few words, 2 or 3 words if it's possible, to our wonderful audience, filled with people who can really make a difference to this planet, what would be the one thing you'd like them to take away from this panel in order to really protect our oceans like they deserve to be protected?
Absolutely. So, according to Māori tradition and even contemporary understandings, the ocean is living, the ocean is hine moana, and if we could just treat her like we would a grandparent, a revered elder, a revered ancestor, it would completely shift the way in which we see the ocean, the way in which we relate to her. And if we can draw from that Indigenous knowledge database and then tie it together with the science, with all the available information, including that worldview that has us connected from, because remembering we're all Indigenous to this planet.
That's beautiful. And Glenn, what would you say to our listeners? One take-home message.
Okay, go to the ocean, explore your own relationship, your personal relationship. Remember that you are the ocean, and the ocean is you. So there is no separation. So go back to your mother and fall in love again.
Oh, that was so stunning. Thank you so much to the two of you. I needed to hear that. So many thanks to you both for such beautiful words of inspiration.